Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog, and welcome to the first vlog for Dorian's mini series, Checking In with Dorian. My name is Nikki. I am a mother of two little boys, Dorian and Jude. Dorian is about to be 5 November 2nd, and Jude just turned 3 on August 21st. We live in Savannah, Georgia here, and fun fact about Dorian is he's autistic, and that's actually big reason why I wanted to start this channel, because I wanted to create some awareness into the community and a platform for others to tune into to find any type of information or tactics, relatability, whatever they may need for within this community. So this is the first vlog. I hope you like it. It's definitely something I want to continue doing, and I'm hoping to build a community out of this with other neuro-awesome mamas out there. So I figured we could go ahead and start with a story time and give a little background information on Dorian and how we came about learning that he was autistic and the whole 9 yards. So let's just start at the beginning. Dorian was born, I'm just kidding. So he seemed to be reaching goals and everything for some time. I did have a best friend at the time who had a daughter the same age, so we would kind of, not saying this is the best thing to do, but we would kind of compare where our kids were and the things they were learning and what they were saying and what was new, and we were just so excited, and we were both first-time moms, so we were just learning it together. I did notice though that her doctor would start doing more things than Dorian, and as him being a boy, I thought, okay, well, you know, maybe he's just a little slow to it. I didn't really think anything about it until I got to the pediatrician for his, I think it was his 18-month appointment, and I had to fill out a questionnaire and tell about his progress and everything. And I remember her asking me if I thought that Dorian was autistic. Well, personally, I don't know anyone autistic. I don't know. Before Dorian, I don't even know if I even had heard of autism, to be honest. Growing up in elementary school, I think a lot of the kiddos were put into the special needs class, and I never remember any kids being run through inclusion or having any kids in the class that had a specific aid. I do believe that there is a lot more education, research, and knowledge on autism nowadays, and that's a good reason why it's more known mainstream. I mean, it could just personally be me. Maybe it was out there a lot more than I'm assuming it was, and I just didn't have any exposure at the time. But so when she asked me, I had no idea. And she kind of explained it, and I am so grateful that his pediatrician was who she was, because she actually has a daughter on the spectrum. And I think that's how she noticed early on that Dorian was showing signs. So she suggested that I should go ahead and go get him seen and evaluated, which I did. And he wasn't qualifying for therapy yet, because at the time he had to be able to pay attention and follow like one-step directions, and he wasn't doing that around 18 months old because he had really poor eye contact, and that was causing him to delay in those aspects a lot. So I did look into a program back in California where he was going to an elementary school for a couple hours a week, just to have some like in-school therapy. And so we did that for a little bit, and I was doing speech over Zoom because at this time it was during COVID, and we did that for a little bit, and I do think that it helped. I don't think it had a huge impact, but I do think that getting into early intervention helped me more than it helped him. And I learned so much about autism and what it was, and just little characteristics and things, and different ways of teaching Dorian and his different learning strategies. And for me personally, that was a huge win when seeking early intervention around 18 months. There's so little at that time, you can't really, expect leaps and bounds, but it did create a good routine for him and I to either go out of the house and go to the school or do the therapies online. Plus, it forced me, I know it was going to sound like Mother of the Year, but it forced me to play with my kid. And when they're 18 months old, and like Dorian, he was majorly independent, which was another issue with one of the things with him being on the spectrum is socialization. And my kid, let me tell you, was so easy. And I'm not trying to brag. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to brag, but Dorian specifically was such an easy baby that he didn't want anyone to play with him. He was happy doing his own thing, and it made it very easy for me to do my own thing while watching him, of course. But it forced me to play with him, which actually was a bonus. So we did that, and then we ended up coming to move to Georgia. So I put services on hold for a bit, and we moved to Georgia, I think about 3 years ago already. And once we got to Georgia, I re-enrolled him in new therapies. Let me tell you, this was such a better process. Moving to Georgia, like, you have no idea. Getting services in California is horrendous. Everything takes forever, especially if it's government funded. And so I had that same mentality moving to Georgia, thinking that everything was gonna, take a year to get started, and that wasn't the case. I had such a better experience here in Georgia getting Dorian into services, so I'm really grateful with that, and it just makes me feel happier that we moved out here. But once we got out here, we put him in, first we got him into OT and speech through a private company, and then we got him into ABA. ABA, speech, and any other kind of therapy, if you don't know, it takes a while to get into, whether it has to do with, like, if there's a wait list, or if there isn't and you're already getting them into the program, they have to do their own type of assessments, and then you have to speak to the BCBA, like for ABA, and there's just a lot of protocols that you have to get into place. So it took a couple months to get the ball rolling on everything, especially with ABA, because they have a little bit more qualifications that you have to do. But once we got started, it was good. One of my concerns, though, at the time was having him go to services outside of the home. For starters, I'm a new mom and I have anxiety. And I don't trust anyone. Like, especially with COVID, it was like towards the tail end of COVID, and I had been stuck in the house for a couple of years, and that didn't help my anxiety. And then Dorian is nonverbal. He speaks more now, but he's still considered nonverbal, and I know he wouldn't be able to tell me if something were to happen. And being in a new city, not knowing anyone, not knowing my surroundings, like, one of my biggest things that I needed to happen were the services had to be in home, or he wasn't going to do it. There's just no way. I would have figured something else out. But luckily I did find speech, OT, and ABA that offered in-home services. And he's been doing it ever since. He ended up getting through I was able to sign him up for disability, for SSI for a little bit. And once I got him into that program, they educated me about a program here in Georgia that's government funded called PSI. PSI is preschool intervention, and it helps kids on the spectrum have, like, preschool, so they can go to an elementary school that has this program there, and the teacher will determine how many hours a day and how many days a week the child needs to come to school to work on socialization, pre-writing skills. They have their own speech and language pathologist on site if they need OT, and just other little things that they may need on their IEP, which is an individualized education plan. And so I was able to get him into that. Let me tell you though, I was stressed because that means that my baby had to do something outside of the home. I met the teacher and I adore her. And if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have done it. But she made me feel so comfortable. And I was just so glad that I trusted her. And that made me feel more comfortable about letting Dorian do something outside of the house, which is good because he does have socialization skills. I'm going to add a clip right here on the screen. I try to encourage Jude and Dorian to bond and play together. It's still definitely a work in progress, which is something that they sometimes work on within ABA right now. And so he's working on it. He'd rather play by himself, but he's working on it. And so the point of this series and what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to be posting a monthly video at the end of the month. And I plan on doing a recap of the month of different skills and goals that Dorian's working on through all of his therapy, the progress that he's made, and if certain goals had to be adjusted or maybe changed or increased or decreased or whatever the case may be. What I'm thinking for the reasoning behind doing this is maybe some parents out there can't afford therapy, or if maybe it's not they can't afford it, but their lifestyle just doesn't allow the time or the flexibility or whatever the case may be. So I'm hoping that maybe if you notice similar traits in your kid, that you could use these type of learning tools in your own household. I want to say, full disclaimer, these plans are created for my child. So please take them loosely. I'm not telling anyone that because something's working for my kid, the same thing is going to work for your kid. I don't want anyone to be upset or to think that I'm a trained professional. I am only speaking from my own experience and hoping that my experience may be beneficial for somebody or multiple people out there. Or maybe just a way to show you that you're not alone, and your kid may not be the same pace as every other kid, and that's okay. It's totally okay as long as your babies are fed, happy, they have a roof over their head, and they have love. Those are the most important aspects first. All of these other therapies and everything are wonderful, but they're just a bonus. And I'm just hoping that because luckily Dorian's able to have these services, that I can also share them with you guys. So yeah, I plan on posting a video, so you can expect those at the end of every month. I don't want to do them any sooner, because if you have a kid on the spectrum or anything about ASD, things take time. And it's honestly, if I did weekly updates, there probably wouldn't be much to report on. I don't even know if there's gonna be much to report on the monthly, but it's something. Progress is progress, and I'm proud of every little progress he makes. So yeah, right now, just to give you a little heads up, I didn't plan a whole month review because I want this to be more of an introductory vlog to the mini series and Dorian and what you guys can look out for. But just to give you a little tidbit on what he's working on right now, Dorian struggles with the letter L when using it in speaking. So he has a tendency to change the L sound to a W, and right now it's so cute. I have this little thing that I do with Dorian every night because he can't say love you well, in this case, he changes the L to M. So I guess it kind of like shifts a little bit, but he says mamu. So at night or during the day, that's kind of our little thing right now is I go, Dorian, mamu, and then he goes, mamu. And I actually put a little clip, so I'm gonna put that in here right now. Dorian, say mamu. Mamu. Something else that we're also working on are pre-writing skills. That's something that we know that Dorian's currently working on too in PSI. They do little worksheets, and a lot of it's hand over hand because his focus isn't the best. He is learning how to hold a pen really, really well, and I noticed that when we were coloring this last week. So it's definitely something I'm trying to integrate with play-based lately, especially because he starts preschool next year. So this year he's in PSI again. He was in it last year. Last year he went 2 days a week for 3 hours each. And then this year we bumped it up to 5 days a week, 3 hours each day, because at 12 to 5 most days he has ABA. It does change a little bit here and there based on other therapies that come in home and his RBT schedule and whatnot, but that's predominantly the schedule. So yeah, I think that is a good way to start the vlog and give you some insight on Dorian and the mini series. And if you have any questions or you would like to dive into any other topics a little bit more in depth, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I would love to answer or help anybody that I can, and I look forward to sharing his journey with you and checking in with Dorian on a monthly basis. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. That helps me out a lot, especially since I'm a newbie and I only have a couple of followers, but this is definitely a platform I'm looking forward to learning and evolving and reaching out to the community, so that helps a lot. And I want to do this new thing. A fellow YouTuber that I follow, she does it, and I think it's so fun. If you've watched to the end of this video, if you could leave a sunflower in the comments down below, that way it just, you know, makes me feel good and happy inside and that you support